Hello, guys, and welcome to the first episode of the Say More podcast with Phoebe Hagan and Lauralie. I'm very excited for this, I'm not going to lie.
I'm choosing so hard, but I have a hard time to breathe right now.
I know it's going to be really good. And we've been talking about this for a very long time as well. Like, I feel like this is something we've wanted to do for a while because we want to kind of give our audience a wider platform into kind of our mindsets because there's so much, again, it's especially why it's called Say More. We have so much to say and I feel like we never sometimes get to, so I think this is going to be a really good platform to be able to do that.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it. First of all, props to everyone who does podcasts because there is a serious work that goes through this. And
Yeah,
like, obviously, we both have been like guests on podcasts
yeah.
before, but to be the host, like, I would have done that with no one else but you, Phoebe.
I literally the
And
same though. I feel like I think it would be like the way that we, again, our friendship, we bounce off each other so nicely, and I think that's the energy we want to bring to your day, your screens, your everything, so we can kind of brighten up your day, give you more knowledge of everything and all that type of thing. So very excited for today. So today's podcast is going to be about turning pro and what next. So I feel like this is a very important, we both discussed this is a very important topic because everyone in the bodybuilding world, I say everyone, but most people's kind of end goals is to turn pro, get to their Olympia stage, get to the highest level of bodybuilding. But what happens when you actually turn pro, and like what were our experiences? Because we were speaking about it and I was like, I can't believe what we did when we were pro and stuff, but we'll all get into that in a second. So I think it'd be good to kind of introduce ourselves first before, if no one's obviously know who we are or anything like that. So my name is Phoebe Hagan, IFBB Bikini Pro from the UK. I am 28. I was just about to say 27, but it was my birthday last week. 28 years old. I've been competing. This is my 8th year competing, my 5th year as a pro. And my job now is competing. I run something called the Posing Portal. I'm a posing coach. So that's my profession. But before I was obviously before I got into bodybuilding, I was into retail. I did like cafe jobs. I was working anything to kind of get money to pay for bodybuilding pretty much, which is pretty crazy to think about now. I would not want to do that now, if I'm honest. Was that kind of the same with you?
oh my God, I feel like obviously I kind of wrote down the notes and you actually answered your notes and you did a pretty good job.
This might be
And I'm just like, oh my,
telepathically just the
I'm like,
same.
obviously, it looks like honestly our journey is so much alike,
Mm.
Phoebe. By the way, happy birthday. I hope you had the best
Thank you.
time ever. Um, so yeah, I mean, for me, I'm Lauralie Chapados. I'm 27 years old. I am a bikini competitor. I've been competing for a very long time now. I think it might be my eighth year competing. I think that's going to be my 8th year competing, I
Yeah.
believe, because this is going to be my 5th Olympia.
Oh, wow.
And
That's amazing.
I had 3 seasons before my first Olympia. So yeah, I
Mhm.
got my 8th year. So I'm from Canada. Quebec, not a small city,
Amazing.
but just province of Quebec, which anyone who can hear me, you can hear my accent.
Yeah.
So little
I
French
sometimes
in me.
I always think you're French sometimes, and I'm like, no, no, no. She's like, it's because when you spoke French, because you're fluent in French. Is it French?
Yes,
Yeah.
French.
I was
Yeah,
like, girl, like it's a different person when you speak like fully French. It's so cool
100%.
though.
And like you would see me with my clients, because I do posing, one-on-one as well. When I speak, I have French clients from French, and you would see I have like my proper French Lauralie, and
Yeah.
then my French with like my friends or like my parents, completely different. And
That's so
then
different.
yeah, it's so crazy. And I just came back from Colorado and I spent some time with my parents and we were speaking French for 4 days. Like I would go to the gym and like lose my English. I was like, wait, I just spoke French for like it's very like jumping from one language to the other, it's very difficult. You speak fully English though, like
Yeah.
this is your first language, you're from the UK.
Yeah.
But how is it in like Dubai? I don't know if you want to talk about like
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I'm obviously. So the funny thing is that we're both obviously from different places, but obviously we're now both based in different countries. So obviously you're based in the US, and obviously I'm based in Dubai at the moment. So obviously bodybuilding here for me, like I love it. Like it's a very big fitness hub here. It's great. Like the people you are around, there's so many professionals here. There's Andrew Jack that are here. I know that is it Hadi Chapin? How does Japan?
Is he
He comes
here?
to, yeah,
Is,
not here. He doesn't. He's not here at the moment, but he comes in quite a lot to Dubai.
yeah.
It's a lot of the men that come in most of the time, but it's really inspiring, especially for me, because you know, obviously it's your world. So when they come and they're like, you're at the top of their game. They're at the top of their game. You're like, wow, like I need to bust my ass and get like better. Like it's so motivating to like see people like next to you that are like going to the Olympia or they're doing a show. Oh, Sergio Olivia, that's another one. He's in Dubai and stuff as well. So it's really cool to see like those types of pros like around you 24/7. And you're obviously based in Miami, and you know you're based in Iron University. So like that's cool because you're honestly around like yeah, you're around amazing people like 24/7 as well. So like how do you find being in Miami at the moment with bodybuilding and stuff?
To be honest, I think Miami came into my life at the right time. I don't
Mm.
think I would have been ready for Miami like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I mean, same with you. Like you kind of moved to Dubai when like the COVID
Yeah,
was going on.
the C word, the
Yes, the
C word
C
came
word.
around.
Came around. So I do feel like it's probably something that you needed.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
and the transition was probably easier because we were kind of like inspired by
Yeah,
the freedom that you didn't have anymore. Like I'm
yeah.
just assuming.
No,
Um,
no, you're completely right. Like I think, especially because I think you were the same where we were kind of in, especially you know, we're in lockdown and all that type of thing. We were like in a small space in our houses like for the whole almost the whole year really. When this kind of opportunity came about, I was like, I feel like I have to take it. Like if I don't, I know I would regret it. And that always sucks when you obviously have those types of opportunities and you're like, if I don't take it, I'm gonna literally be like, I'm gonna be asking myself what if. So I just kind of made the move. There was not even a reason for me to, or a reason for me and Max to want to move. It was crazy. Like we didn't want to move to Dubai. We never had the urge to. But when it kind of came about, we just fell in love and we thought, fuck it, like let's go. And sometimes you have those moments in life that you have to take. And I love it. And now I like never look back and I can, you know, call this my home, which is so cool. So I think it's the same with you. I'm guessing it's the same with you with Miami and stuff, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, I love that the fact that you brought Max into the podcast. We'll talk about it later because that's obviously like the relationship part. Like that's one of the
Mhm.
reasons why I moved to Miami,
Yeah.
like but I obviously never looked back. But yeah, I was in California. I didn't really like live the lockdown per se.
Yeah.
I was a little bit affected with like the gym hours and stuff, but I still, thank God, we had access to a gym and stuff. But then like moved to Vegas. Vegas was a lot. Like a
Yeah, like
lot.
obviously I stayed in Vegas like for the Olympia. And don't get me wrong, I think my experience was definitely different because obviously I was obviously at Team Elite Prep House and obviously I was at the prep center and all that type of thing. So it was very gym based. But anything outside of that, I was like, this is crazy. This is like it's like party central. It's like there's lights and it's like a huge city and like it's crazy pretty much. But it's also very fitness based because there's obviously, you know, there's elevation, there's which is obviously new. And then there's the prep center. There's what's the other one? The pink one, the pink and black one,
Fit Club,
Fit Club, and then obviously Dragon's
Dragon's
Lair.
Den.
So
Yeah.
it's a crazy city, but it's becoming more and more fitness based as well, which is so strange. But I love it. It's really nice to like go there and stuff. So I enjoy it a lot. But no, I think it's really cool that we're able to kind of do our bodybuilding thing now compared to what it used to be like, which we'll kind of get into a little bit more later, which is cool. So, but how did you get into bodybuilding? Obviously, I know this is probably a question that you've been asked like many times, so we'll kind of keep it short. But like, how did you get into bodybuilding? Like, what did you do when was the first thing, like first time you kind of saw and we were like, oh my God, I need to try that?
So, like I said, like where I'm from, like it's not something that's really popular. And you know what? Like looking back, it's kind of weird because like Montreal was actually like a hub of like Mr. Universe back in the
Mm,
days. But when the women like category came around, like
yeah.
bikini and stuff, like it wasn't really popular at all. So the only women that I knew that was competing was all the way back in Montreal. So I was kind of like already in the gym. Like I bought my first membership to the gym like in November.
Mm,
And the first time that I committed to a gym membership was just because I used to play soccer and we have like really bad winter in
mm,
Quebec. So like it's always kind of like depressing when it comes like December, February, March.
yeah.
Anyway, so I was looking to have something that I could like do for myself and just like rely on myself because in Quebec, like you turn like the legal age is 18.
Yeah. It's the same with
Okay.
same as UK. So that's why I find it so funny because the legal age is 18 and obviously in America it's 21. So
Right. So like we become like adult like younger.
yeah.
And the thing with like soccer is like the girls like started not taking it serious. They would show up at practice and stuff. So I was like, listen, like I need to have something that I can rely only on myself and like my own
Yeah.
schedule, right? So I got a membership to the gym, fell in love, like automatically, Phoebe. Like you would see me in the morning do my cardio and abs, or like cardio and
Oh my
calves,
God, abs. Yeah, I remember that was like
and
my
then come
thing,
back.
cardio, abs in the morning. And then like that was like not all I would do, but that was like I'd blast abs for a good like 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah. Oh my God, we were so yeah nuts. Like something that I would never do like again,
Not
right?
now, not now anyway.
And having like that regular like split, like bodybuilding split. Like I was
Yeah.
going on bodybuilding.com and like never really hired a coach at
Yeah.
all, but it's just something like looking back, I'm trying to find this like crazy story of like how I got started, and it really just came to me like a life calling thing. Like it
Yeah.
was just there. Like it was
Yeah.
just
It was there when you, like you said, you needed something to that you needed to rely on, like yourself. Like obviously, like you said, you went into a team sport, which was obviously soccer. People weren't taking it seriously, and you were. It was like I don't want to put myself into something that other people aren't going to take seriously and have to rely on others, because a lot of the times with obviously team sports, you have to do it as a team, and if one person isn't in it, like it's going to crumble. So the fact that you kind of was like, I took initiative and was like, I need to find my own thing that I can just do. And like, if I don't do it well, that's only my blame. That's great,
right.
especially from that
But
young age. Like I wasn't that young. I started at like 21, I think. I started obviously going, I know, well, not going to the gym at 21. I
okay,
started going to
okay.
the gym probably at around 20. So I started quite
But
late.
still,
I started going to the gym around 20. I did do a lot of team sports. So is that we're kind of opposites. I did do team sports for around 8 years. I went to cheer. I did cheer for 8 years. And I did that. And then I wanted to start to get stronger. So then I kind of went to the gym, and the gym was actually next door to me. So I was like, I want to get stronger for cheer, this, that, the other. And I was like, I was the same as you. I went into like an old school gym, saw like these guys on like the walls. Obviously, that was the local bodybuilders like on the walls and stuff. And I was like, why are they in like the pants and like posing and stuff? And I was like, this looks really cool. And like people were like, I was like asking people, and there was this one specific woman on the wall, and she was the only one on the wall. And it was like, I think it was like a WBFF show or something that she did, or like there's something called Miami Pro. I don't know if they have it over in I think it's a UK kind of show, but it was a bikini fashion show kind of thing versus it being an NPC show. And I was like, oh my God, her like body, like that's incredible. And I kind of saw that and I was like, this is insane. Like that's amazing. Started to get into the gym more. And it was actually Max, however many years ago, that actually said like, you have a good shape, you should do a show. It was never I wanted to do a show. He kind of said like, no, you have a good shape.
little
You could
seed
probably
inside
like,
your head.
yeah, he kind of like put it into my brain. Like I never kind of, because I had cheer, I had that team sport and I was very content with that.
Were
And I
you
kept
like
looking into it and
y-
seeing more things, but he kind of said like, you should do bodybuilding, you should try a show. And I was like, okay, let's give it a go. And I remember specifically at my first show, I was backstage and I was freaking out. Like I'm going on stage in a bikini, like showing
that's
my
where
body
it
off
hit
to
you?
like, this is crazy. Like, why am I doing this? I was like, I actually was very to the point where I was out to not step on stage, but I was like, I can't do this. Because like it's very, if we really look at what we do, it's so abnormal out of the the normal kind of human thing to do, I guess. But like I was almost not gonna do it. And as soon as I stepped on stage and I did my routine, I was like, oh my God, that was insane. Like that was incredible. Like I need to do that again. And I remember doing 8 shows that year. so
Oh
so I
my
know.
God.
And I started in March and ended in November. So it was
Wow.
a pretty wild run.
Were you like ever like competitive? Like you were doing like competitive cheers or like cheer? Or
Oh
you were
yeah. So like
what
I
competitive?
did, yeah, so it was all-star cheer that I did. So the all-star, so the cheer, so it was very serious. So like a lot of the girls that were there obviously were there, and we were like, they were like, you need to be there and you need to be committed to this. So I think that definitely from a young age, especially because I think I started that when I was around, I want to say like 15, 16. So from a young age, they were like, you need to be dedicated to this if you want to be good. And that kind of had that kind of helped me throughout my bodybuilding career. Like if I want to be good at something, I need to
Show
stick
up.
to it and dedicate myself to it. So I think cheer definitely helped me. Like shout out to my local team, Zodiac All Stars, for teaching me that from a young age, because it really helped. And I think especially from the younger generation perspective, I know obviously now like we're in the generation of like TikTok and Instagram and this, that, the other, but I think it's so good that people still try and like either go to the gym or have some sort of team sport where they do like have to dedicate themselves to, because it really helps them grow to try and dedicate themselves to something versus it being like, oh, I just don't know what to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and like even though like you ended up like not knowing what to do, like just
Mm,
to actually try something,
yeah,
it's such key. That's I think that's why like my parents have like they were very like they were putting us into sport, like whatever it
yeah,
was. It wasn't like it was never about like us being the best at it. Like we ended up being like really good at it. And obviously like when you're a kid and you're good at something, you're kind of like
yeah,
that's where you thrive.
yeah,
Um but it was never about like, competitive like skiing. Like we were never into like teams of things, but we were
yeah,
like showing up at a certain time on like the weekend and weekdays. And my parents were working really hard, but like they were you need to be in the sport or something or like
yeah,
try something.
yeah. You need to
And
try and do something for yourself. Yeah,
we would like at least like do it for a whole season before like giving up or like changing sport, but we were
yeah,
never like here just like doing anything, you know?
yeah. Were you
Uh,
like someone that did lots of things? Like I did loads of stuff when I was younger, like younger, but I was like, I'm bored. I'd try something else. So I was very like intriguing. I'm a very intriguing child. Like I wanted to try new things. If I didn't like it, I'd be like, oh, I don't want to do it. Like I'd never stick to anything apart from cheer and bodybuilding. That my dad will still hand on heart say, like cheer and bodybuilding, the one things that made you, because everything else you didn't like.
that's so funny. But it honestly it kind of makes sense of like who you are
Yeah.
today. Like you actually love being around people, like a very like
Yeah.
uplifting person. You were the base, right? You were base and cheer, or
Yeah.
no?
Yes, I
Yeah.
was.
I did this because I did share like one time,
No, I love
like
that
I
you
know
know that.
everything. But like it's very like obviously
Yeah.
uplifting, like caring, like knowing that
Yeah.
you had like probably have the life of someone, like actually their neck, like
No. Yeah, I
in
know.
your
Yeah, I know
hands.
what you mean.
But it shows really in your character today. But also how crazy that you and Max have been almost together for a decade. That's
That's
kind of
very,
like
very long
nuts.
time. He's literally been there for my entire bodybuilding career, which I give him massive props to, because obviously bodybuilding isn't easy. And we'll like throughout this podcast, we'll discuss like everything, the ups and downs and all that type of
Yeah.
thing. That's what we want to try and do with this podcast, obviously. But yeah, today's topic, we definitely want to try and speak about turning pro, especially and the kind of figuring out what you do after that and what we kind of did after, and the experiences we went through. Because I even think now, like the experiences now that they have, a lot of people have now versus what we did when we turned pro. Like, I think we both discussed it and we're both the exact same.
Yeah, I'm gonna like go back to like exactly how my because I want to know if you want if you won your like did you won your pro like first show or no?
Oh, yes. So,
You
how I
did.
won, yeah, of course. So,
Okay.
how I won my pro card was I went to Spain. So, I went to Spain 2018 in June, and that was the first show. So obviously, I don't know if it was the same with you, but did you know about obviously the split that happened with obviously the IFBB and like IFBB Elite and all that type of thing. So with the UK, it was obviously very, very difficult to get a pro card. So there was only one given out each year. So anyway, obviously, long story short, they finally obviously kind of came together. Like, we're going to do more shows for, obviously, to get more opportunity for pro card. So I was like, amazing. So the first one was Spain. So I did the Spain show in 2018, and I won the juniors, the overall, the juniors, the open, the overall, and then obviously got the pro card. And then I did the pro show the same day and got second. I was literally like, what is going on? So it was kind of like you were chucked in. So especially nowadays, especially with Americans, a lot of them win their pro cards and they have to obviously wait for
Mhm.
their pro debut. I was
Yeah.
kind of chucked in. They were like, do you want to do it? And I was like, well, it's here, so why not? So I did it straight away, obviously on the day. And I always say to people now is like, make sure that you do, if you have the opportunity to do a pro show that
Do
same
it.
day, do it, because the judges are right there. You're fresh in their minds. You can get even if you come last, they can tell you exactly what you need to work on, and you can either work on it and do another show, or you can work on
Yeah.
it and do an off season. So I always say like that's the most valuable thing you can do. But I
Yeah.
think that's not a thing in the US. Obviously, you don't get your pro card and then there's pro show the same day usually.
So I think they did it like the year that they actually bring the pro qualifier shows. Let's say like Pittsburgh Pro, for example, like that's a
Mhm.
pro qualifier show. They
Yeah,
the girls that would win their pro card because it's the next day, the pro show,
yeah,
like depending on how the promoter like put on the shows,
Put on
they
the
were
show, you
able
can
to
do it.
compete. I don't know
Oh,
if it's the case still today. Like there's been so many changes in the rules, like
yeah.
since I'm here. So you first started in 2018. You won your pro card in 2018.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
started in 2016. So in my first, so I
Oh,
started
okay.
my kind of my bodybuilding career in 2016, and then I won my pro card 2 years later. So I think nowadays as well, I think it's really good to kind of say that, it took me 2 years to get my pro card. Obviously, some people, will get their pro card in one and done, and that's amazing. Like I think that's incredible, but it also can take a lot longer. Like I know people that have like waited like years and years and like maybe for like 5 6 years. Sometimes people are still going for their pro cards and they get it and they're
Yeah.
like, oh my god, I finally got it. Like it's
It's a
that drive
lifetime
to want
journey.
to get that professional status, which I think is really cool. That obviously the IFBB give us the opportunity to do that. But yeah, so obviously got my pro card then, and yeah, like I said, I went back to work on the Monday. So we flew, well, actually, no, tell a lie, it was the Tuesday. So we flew back on the Monday. And then the Tuesday, that's when I kind of went back to kind of my regular job. And like, I was just at the time, I was at a reception. It's for a window fitting company. So I was working at a window
Yeah.
fitting company to get
Oh
extra
my
money to
God.
pay for all these flights because so much things that you have to pay for. Even as a pro, you have to pay for a lot of things. So
Yeah.
I'd say even more now, you have to kind of pay for more things as a pro because you have to fly around everywhere and obviously do international shows. And so it sometimes becomes a bit difficult. But no, that's kind of the story of me and how I kind of earned my pro card and stuff like that. So I think that's really, really, it's really cool to kind of see, like, tell the story behind that. How did you get your pro card?
So, I first started so in Canada is kind of the same as the UK, right? So there's
Yeah.
only there's a certain way how to do things. I think the same way as they do in the US, but back in the days where the IFBB were like just a one
Yeah.
unit, we had obviously the original show that you needed to do.
Mm.
So that was my first show in 2015,
Hmm.
and it was in June time. So they were timing the shows according to the school,
Yeah.
right? So like the season was starting about, I want to say like May,
Hmm.
June, July, and going all the way to August, and then after that for a whole year there was like no show whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I did my first regional show in 2015, and
Hmm.
I won that show. I won overall. Then two
Nice.
months after, I did provincial show, which is like a stage show or
Yeah.
whatever, to qualify me for national. I won that show, won overall.
Yes.
And then I went to national that same year. So there were two nationals and
Hmm.
depending of the province, and I would just go to the show that was like the closest to me, that I
To
was
you,
able
yeah.
to actually drive. Because like you said, like student here, also part-time, I can't remember what I was working at the time. I think I was a receptionist at a spa or something, or like a third key, like manager, or like yeah, I think that's what I was doing. And
Yeah.
then I drove to that year was in Toronto, I believe,
Hmm.
the stage show, and I won that show, but I didn't win the overall, so I didn't win my
Oh,
pro card. So that was the end of my first season as first competitor,
yeah.
right? So I had a off season, probably to this day, Phoebe, the best off season in my entire life. Like I was eating like a bodybuilder, like crazy amount, but also having like the best workout of my life. Like
Yeah.
every day I would just go. Like I was a student and I was working two jobs then. Um so I like when I was checking in at the gym, I had an hour. So it was like I had my headphones in before walking in inside the gym. I was like, I'm here to work. I would sweat my literally my balls off like a
Yeah.
crazy person and just like work. And that year I just went straight to national. I just did that one show. It was
Mhm.
13-hour drive away in my little Pontiac.
Oh my
I
God.
literally grabbed my stuff. I was, peak week, like maybe like 2 days before I had
Oh,
to take off
yes.
work, obviously. And back in the days I was working as a waitress. So like
Hmm.
how it is, like you take off like let's say Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So it's like the best, the highest paying day. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, all right, but I'm getting my pro card,
Yeah.
right?
You're
So I
like,
just
this
took
needs
my
to be
car.
worth it.
I just took my car. I went there and girl, like I won my pro card.
Hell yes. That's so good though, because I feel like again, you put the work in like everyone does. You did the groundwork. You went into an off season, you built, worked for it, you came back, you won. Like that's as simple as it needs to be, really. And even if you didn't at that time, you do the exact same again. Do you know what I
I
mean?
would do the exact same thing
Yeah,
again. Like, you would just take like a year. I had like a whole like 8 months of like doing it like aggressively.
yeah.
So yeah, I can't even remember like what I actually did the next day. I had this beautiful trophy, like it was a crystal trophy, but I can't even remember because I was just like, wait, like I gotta go
What
back to work.
happened?
Like I gotta go back to school. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like I honestly cannot recollect what I've done. I think I might have like the same night changed like my Instagram, like little handles. Like I think that's
That's
what I
exactly
did.
what I did.
Like
That was the first thing I
underscore
did.
like IFBB Pro.
Yeah.
I don't have it anymore. I actually took it down for
Yeah.
some
No, that's the
reason.
first thing I did. I don't think I changed my actual name. I think I changed like the bio. That was like the first thing I did though. I was like, Phoebe Hagen, Phoebe Pro, like
Wait, do
straight.
you still have
It's
it?
such a thing that you've been working towards for so long, like you're
Yeah,
proud of it at the end of the day and you want to show it off. So I think it's really
right.
cool when you have those types of moments that happen and you're like, oh my God, this actually happened. So you don't remember.
Wait, you
So
took it down.
did you
Or
take it down?
it's not the I underscore IFBB.
Yeah.
You
So
never
it's,
put it.
yeah, it's at the little top, like the little bio bit. So,
Oh
but
no, no, I changed my like username.
your actual username. I know. See,
Girl,
I never actually
yeah.
changed my username to be fair, but I know. But then I think quite a few people have obviously, IFBB Pro in their name and stuff like that. But I think, what was the reason you changed it?
I mean, I guess it was like a thing back in
Hmm.
the days, but I think it goes really well with like the subject that we want to target because
Yeah,
it was my everything. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
when I first started competing, it was not Instagram was not what it is today.
No. Oh
Like
my God,
it was,
no.
and like we said, like it's not something that we reached out to. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's not something that was in our face all the time. We're like, oh, maybe I should compete. No, it was
Mm.
like it came to us
It
like
came. Yeah.
naturally. And I
Yeah.
think that is a very different journey
Yeah.
than having it in your face and just be like, oh, well, I should probably do that. Which,
Yeah.
like, to me, obviously, like, I'm so glad I first started when, like, there
Yeah.
was no Instagram around.
There
Like,
was
I
no
don't,
validation for Instagram or I have to do this or feel like I have to do this because of others. I don't think that it's solely like that all the time, but I think there's very much more of that now where you feel like there's a lot more pressure behind having like if you look good, you should compete. You have to compete because you look good. Like you can just look good if you want to. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like you have to
yes,
compete where people now feel like that they have to because that's the only next step. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
yes,
and it's sad to a certain extent because I don't want people. I don't say I don't want people to get into, but it's you wouldn't want people to get into bodybuilding for the wrong reasons as such. Like you
correct.
want to do it
Exactly.
because
I
you
was about
want
to
to do it,
say,
not because you feel like you have to. Um,
yeah,
which I think is very very different.
I have so much more admiration. I want to say, like, because I've obviously noticed that a lot with like
Mm,
traveling and meeting with obviously younger clients and stuff and just people in general. But I do, and I'm gonna say this out loud, I have more admiration for someone that is living the lifestyle or like
yeah,
whatever lifestyle that they feel it's good for them and like
yeah,
figure that thing out. Let's say like they have a croissant every single day, but they train because they love it.
yeah,
I found this like 100% more powerful
yeah.
than someone that just commits to something for a reason that they don't really know why.
No, yeah,
And another story again, like this beautiful like 50 years old woman came to me last week. And Phoebe, I'm telling you, like probably like ready to step on stage right now. Like
yeah.
as we speak, I could put her on stage right now. It's my little personal
Crazy.
project because she came in. She's Brazilian. She's from Brazil.
Mm,
She's been in the US for 18 years. Doesn't speak a word of English. Like it was extremely difficult to communicate, but I'm like,
yeah,
listen, I'm gonna help you out. Like
yeah,
like she wants to step on stage because she has her kid, like her kid is like
yeah,
32 years old. She's looking amazing. And she just woke up one day. She has no social media.
yeah,
Like, and she just looks like shredded, like, and
yeah.
just nice. And
And she
she's
just
like, do
wants
I,
to compete.
yeah, she's like, do I need a coach? I'm like, listen, I want to
I
help you.
got you.
I got you. Like, I want to help you. Like, where do you want to go? Let's look at the
Yeah,
schedule together.
but that's
Because
what
I
I
was just like,
love.
and she was like showing me her food, Phoebe. Greek yogurt. She does Greek yogurt. She goes with her friends. Like she have glass of wine. Like she just lives her life. And
Yeah,
she happens that today she wants to compete
yeah,
because of she wants to compete. Like there's no
yeah.
other reason than that. And I
No,
think
of course.
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
But I admire more someone that now is just doing exactly what they want to do.
Yeah.
Just
And I think obviously we have to kind of dive into that and say, like, obviously, don't get me wrong, like, there's so much that comes to bodybuilding that you have to change and sacrifice and do differently. And like, obviously, we're not saying that, you just have to, you just do what you need to do. And then like, you just change, you don't have to change things and then it will fall into your lap. Obviously
yeah,
not. But I think it's very much the want to actually step on stage. Like sometimes the desire to step on stage is very different to want to do it. So I feel like some people just feel like they have to do it versus actually want to do it. I think it's very good nowadays to know whether or not you actually want to do it, or you feel like you're either being pressured to, or you feel like you have to because of social media or all that type of thing. I think that's very important to kind of know the difference, I guess. And I guess sometimes people ask, how would you know the difference? And I guess it's kind of like asking yourself the questions: do you enjoy, lifting? Do you enjoy doing what you do? Do you enjoy the routine of it all? Do you enjoy all these types of things? Like, don't just kind of feel like, I like the way Lauralie Japalos looks. I want to look like her, but I've never stepped in a gym before. But I want to step on stage. Like, build the groundwork and like
yeah.
learn to enjoy training, the diet, the food behind it, the just lifestyle and feeling content with your body, all shapes and sizes, before then
Yeah.
being like, I want to look like lean Lauralie. And then being like, oh, realizing I can't look like lean Lauralie all the time. Does that make sense?
Oh my God.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I definitely feel like that's something that sometimes it's a gray area, I feel sometimes, which it's hard to navigate because this sport is growing rapidly,
Yes.
which is
Yes, absolutely.
amazing. And I love it because it feels
Absolutely.
like there's a huge community, but it's
I
also
think
very overwhelming with information.
100%. And like I think even as a pro, like I had to face even more of that because now you have obviously the pressure of being a pro and like what
Yeah.
does that even mean? Because like you could
Yeah.
Google that. What does the IFBB Pro mean? And I don't think there's really a thing that comes up because it's such an interesting journey, right? Like
Yeah.
any other sport, NFL players or like um, I feel like they obviously worked through that since they're like 5 years
Yeah.
old. So they have like a
Mm.
certain standard where like, okay, you need to like practice at a certain amount of time. You just need to like make the goal. And like, it's very, and
There's skills behind it. Yeah.
it's just more like obvious. It's
Yeah.
more obvious, I want to say. And
Yeah.
then as a pro, like you said, like about enjoying the journey, like I had to face that like this year more than ever.
Yeah.
And that's a lot because of Kim,
Yeah.
Kim Odo, my coach, because going into the Olympia this year, we both of
Mm.
us did it. It was a very exhausting prep.
Yeah. I can imagine.
And I honestly think it was for you as well. Like you didn't see it while you were in prep because there was so
Yeah.
much adrenaline. You were traveling and everything was like great and happening, same
Hmm.
as me. But I think I've seen this for many competitors because I was talking with the girls. We without talking to girls backstage, we kind of knew it
Yeah,
was a
you know
rough
what?
one.
Yeah, like I think a lot
Everyone
of
went
people were.
balls to the
Like,
walls on
yeah,
that prep. And like pressure was there from everywhere,
yeah,
every single day. And like it's not enough. Like us as we are, we just put like that time 1,000 on our
yeah,
head and we're extremely hard on ourselves. And I think it brought us to a very great point into our life. But Kim was just like after the Olympia, he took a great amount of responsibility for whatever reason he thinks it's fair for him to say that he should have feed me more. Like, but it was a lot more than that.
yeah,
It was um me going back to having fun.
yeah,
And like the first time he told me that, like let's just have fun. I was
yeah.
like, I was looking at him like,
What?
what are you saying? Like, are you
Yeah,
saying that I'm done? Like,
yeah.
what does that having
What does
fun
that
mean?
mean?
Like, yeah, I'm a professional. Like, you don't
Yeah,
don't even say that. I was getting so annoyed, Phoebe. Like, he was like
yeah.
repeating that to me, and every time I was like, don't say that. I was like,
You're
just
like,
my
I can't. Just
insecurities
don't
would
say
come in.
fun.
Yeah, I was like, my insecurity was come in. I'm like, this is not a hobby for me, Kim. Like, I put all my life on the sideline for
Yeah,
this, but like, I realized what he meant
yeah,
at the Arnold this year because we had, this conversation, you and I back and forth
mm,
during the Arnold. You know that I was this close to call it
yeah,
off. Um, and I even, the person that I went to was Kim.
yeah,
And the second that I was like, that's really the only thing I can do is having fun, right? Because
hmm,
I finished fifth at the Olympiad. I'm like, I'm not gonna go into the Arnold being like, I'm the title holder and I'm
yeah,
like trying to regain my title. Like, no,
yeah,
like, and that led me to just like really kind of embracing every day and just like be present, like really
yeah,
be present into like what do I can control right now?
Yeah.
giving 100% to my workout. Oh, today was not 100% to my workout. Well, too bad. It
Yeah.
is what it is. Like,
Like, I think when you say having fun, like I really resonate with that because like the difference between my prep and obviously the Arnold's prep that I was going through was so different. Like my Olympia prep was like I am just going to do my best I'm just going to do my best and see what happens. And that was the best prep I've ever done. Like every part of that, I was having fun. I was like, I came to Florida, obviously trained with you, met you, was training with Jen, was training with Amy, training with loads of different people, like enjoying the fact that I was in America and my prep was there and like just enjoying the entire experience because obviously it was my first Olympia as well. So I was enjoying every single moment, but obviously still working fucking hard. Like it's not like the hard work stop when we say having fun. It's like we have to take that pressure off of ourselves so we don't run ourselves into the ground. Like, and I think that's what a lot of pros and amateurs go through, especially amateurs getting their pro cards now. I feel like pro cards, there is a lot more opportunity to get pro cards, but there's also a lot more people competing. Like, so it's going to be harder each year. It's harder each year, and it's harder to get qualified for the Olympia each year. So we put our pressure on ourselves by being like, we have to do this, we have to do that. By actually being like, just do what we can in a way where we're enjoying things, we're putting 100% in it, enjoy the process. Like, that's the main point. Like, enjoy the process. Obviously, we're gonna have shitty days and sucky days and like days that don't go great, right? But
yeah.
overall, we want to enjoy and embrace the journey.
Yeah, because my God, like when you think back of everything that, I mean, it's also, oh my God, it's also saying like we you would want to like mimic your Olympia prep for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
probably. You know what I'm saying? But
Mm-hmm.
then you realize really, really soon that, well, I can't actually do that
Can't
because
do
life
that.
does happen. Life does happen. So, um, I want to jump into like how does like the sport has changed you? So like we spoke about how we earn our pro card, what we've
Yeah.
done the next day. Like you were, studying, I
Yeah.
believe, still.
Yeah.
You were
Well, yeah. I
working
went back to
still.
work and stuff. Yeah.
So like how does like what was your first like what comes to mind when I tell you like what was the main change? Like you obviously had to stop cheerleading, I believe.
So I was cheerleading. So I was cheerleading for I think 2000 until I think I wasn't cheering when I was obviously getting my pro card. So 2016 and 17, I think I was cheering when then I stopped in 2017. So then when I obviously made that change, and also another point I forgot to mention, which I always forget, I was actually at university in 2000 and oh god, I can't remember if it was 2000. I think it was 2016 and I quit to fully pursue bodybuilding. Or it was either 2016 or 2017. Um I was at university and I didn't go to my last exams because I was like, it's not me. Like, I don't want to do it. And like, I know, like, this is really bad. And
Mhm.
disclaimer, do not do this like in general because it's not responsible at all. And like, 2% of people actually work for, but I really didn't enjoy being in university. Like, it wasn't my
That's
thing. Like,
fine.
I went to university to learn how to get my own business to be a PT. That was my whole reason as to why went. And like, I
Got
realized
it.
very quickly that I didn't need to do that. I didn't need to go and get a degree. Well, I say need to get a degree with very, very light, but I didn't need to do that to do what I wanted to do, if that makes sense. So
I
I
mean,
decided like,
you're the proof in the pudding with like your business
yeah,
that you have right now. So that's
yeah,
interesting. So you stop working after
yeah,
a year competing. So you did your first 8 show and you were
yeah.
like the next prep, like if I want to do that, I'm gonna do 100%.
Yeah, I
And that
was
was
like, I
it.
need to give
So
my all
before
to
being
this.
a pro.
Yeah, like yeah, exactly. So it was kind of
Okay.
like the goal was kind of coming a bit more like clearer and being like, okay, do I want to be pro? Like, do I have a future in this? All that type of thing. And I was like, I want to find out if I actually do. Like, like if worst comes to worst, I can always go back. Like worst comes to worst, you can always go back to something that you had before if it doesn't work out. Like that's something that I always say to a lot of people because I think people are like, if I do this, like it's forever. And I'm like, most situations could be forever, but you could also turn it around. So I was
Yeah.
like, screw it, I'll do it. I'll quit it and obviously see what happens. And obviously it works out for the best, thank God. But so I think the main thing that's changed me about how bodybuilding's changed me is that I feel like I look at I feel it sounds very weird, but I feel like I look at life in a very different way because bodybuilding is like such a different sport to any other sport, like team sports or like a solo sports or like like it's not a skill based sport, right? So
Correct.
like obviously you have to go to the gym, you have to have some sort you obviously have to have like a certain dedication to it and all that type of thing, but there's no actual skill set to it, kind of, in a way, so you can kind
Mhm.
of learn a lot of the things and lots of things. So for me, the way that it's changed me is, it like anything is kind of possible, and anything, if you want to learn anything, you can do anything. That sounds very, very cliche and whatnot, but like, I feel like you can learn a lot of things. And like a lot of the times people are like, oh, I want to do this, they
So
never do it
much.
because they're like, oh, it's too hard, or like, oh, this is too this. But I feel like bodybuilding has definitely made me realize like anything is possible. Do you know what I mean? Like
I
anything,
mean, it puts you in a place where like you need
like
to believe that anything's gonna
when,
be
yeah, you
possible
need to
because
believe in yourself. Like you have
yeah,
no one else to trust apart.
yeah,
Obviously, your coaches are very good, but your coach can only do so much. You have to put in the work, the effort, and do
yeah.
everything yourself. And you need to believe in yourself. And like if you don't have that, you're not going to succeed, really. So, and I feel like the way that I look at things, like when I kind of, got my pro card and started to do more things in the industry, I was like, well, I want to try this, but oh, I'm a bit like worried if it doesn't go well. And like, I always think back to like, well, you won your pro card, you went to Spain, won your pro card in like a big show and all that sort of thing. So you like, you can do anything you want to if you set your mind to it, like, so I feel like the way that I look at things now is very different. So like when I was starting obviously the posing portal, I was like, oh my God, this is a really big investment. I don't think people are going to like maybe take to it. And I'm like,
Mhm.
but if you put your mind to it, anything is possible. And like I said, if it doesn't go your way, then you can change it. That's the way I think. Whereas before, oh my God, my mindset is like, if I didn't see like any sort of hope, or if I thought something, I'd be like, no, that's not gonna work. I can never do that. I can, like, the way that I used to talk to myself with my goals and my ambitions and wanting to do something, I was like, that will never happen. That was the first
Okay,
thing
so
in,
like that's
yeah.
okay, so
So
that's
the
how it's
mindset
like
shift.
now it's you talking back to yourself, but were you like you weren't like that going through it, you know what I'm
No.
saying?
Yeah.
You
I
weren't.
wasn't
Okay.
always like that. I wasn't always like anything's possible, or like you can do it if you put the work in. I was always like, oh, I'd really love to do this. That would never happen to you. Don't bother. That's literally that was my mindset in like younger Phoebe times, which again, I know, sometimes we get those thoughts now, and like I've spoken to you a lot about this before, and obviously I go through a lot of doubting myself and doubts of, business, my career, all that type of thing. I think we all do,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
think before it was like a case of like I couldn't do anything. If it was out of my comfort zone, it was not happening. Like that's how I thought about it.
Yeah.
So like I think it's cool now that I could like happily say that that's how it's changed me, How do you feel like you bodybuilding's changed you?
So, when you talk about like bodybuilding as a sport,
Mm,
like and put it like outside of you, it's so crazy because that's what I'm asking. I'm like, have you always seen that as like a sport and something like an
yeah.
entity, like talking about the industry or blah blah blah, like
Yeah.
something out? Phoebe, it was just Lauralie, the IFBB. Like, like it. The first time that I was able to communicate that to my parents, like I needed to tell them like it was a sport and that I
Mm,
need. But the first time that I got questioned on like what I was doing, because it creates new habits, right? So you start showing up at parties or like social events with like your Tupperware, and like people
yeah.
start making comments and blah blah blah. So I took all of this extremely personal because I
Yeah.
wasn't able to tell them this is what is required for me to do a show. Because then
Yeah.
people were saying, but it's so stupid. Like, why do you
Yeah.
want to do step on stage on bikini? And I was like, I was trying to explain to them, like, this is not why I'm doing it. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
doing it for the bikini part and the jewelry. Like, if anything, Phoebe, like, I was a tomboy when I was young. Like, I was not,
Dude, same.
like,
I
I was
literally was the
not,
worst person for fashion. I was not a girly girl
girl,
whatsoever.
girl, yeah. At all. Like doing my nail was like a torture. It's still like a torture. Like I needed to be like in 45 minutes and like if you can't do it, like yeah, it gives me like anxiety. Anyway, and I was like I was not into shopping or whatever. So with that being said, like I it really grew into me as like my identity. Like
Yeah.
it was just me. And like the
Yeah.
second that you were judging what I was eating, like you're judging me. And then you're telling
Yeah.
me I'm doing something wrong. And when I was young and still up to today, like if someone comes to me and say something about, so I have like a little mole, I can like this one here. So when I was like really young at school, like I was making fun of with my mole and my lips. My lips were really
Oh,
big and like my mole. And I'm not lying to you. I told my mom I was probably like, I want to say like 7 years old, ask my mom to bring me to the doctor, asking the doctor to take it out. And the only reason why I didn't took it out, because if you take that mole off, it makes like a crease into your
Oh,
skin
you'll be
and
able to see
like
it.
forever. But
Mm.
how silly.
Yeah.
How silly is that? But
Mm.
that's how much to like heart I wanted to like not disturb anyone, not
Yeah.
disappoint anyone. And like, when someone was making fun of me, like a family gathering
Mm.
about what I was eating, then I was like, I would look at my parents, I would look at my brother, because I was like, did I embarrass them? Like, did I
Yeah.
embarrass like the people that I love? And like, oh my God,
Um,
Phoebe, like I realized like I was like that and I'm still like that today. And it's
yeah.
very
I
difficult,
think you massively changed though. Like I think the difference between what obviously you were like then versus now, I think you
Oh
are
my God.
definitely like 100% like I think the reason you were like that is because you cared so much. You cared about what you were doing.
Yeah, it was my little thing. And it was very difficult for me to like even understand what was going on, because I was
Mm.
17 years old. Like I don't know who I am at 17 years old, but like when you're 17, you just don't want to be different. You
No.
just want to be kind of like everybody else, following the same trend. Whatever you see at school, you want the same thing,
Yeah.
and you just want to follow the trend. So like now that I'm here, like with my gallon of water and like
Yeah.
my tuna fish at like 10 a.m., like I just decided to hide. Like I would literally get those small Tupperwares, or like yeah, small Tupperware, and just go into the bathroom, eat my meal number two really, really quick,
Oh my God.
head out, and like nothing happened. And I would just hide myself to like not to like to avoid conflict.
Yeah.
And
I get that.
realizing, like slowly realizing that the more that I was putting myself in those situations, let's say at work, I would just eat, in front of someone, and
Mm.
people would still make comments, or like let's say they would bring like a box of donut because it's just like common over there, and like
Yeah.
me saying no, and like having to face those conflict, I was like getting stronger like a little bit by a little bit. And now today, like I realize that if you want to grow, like you need to face those adversities, because
Mm.
otherwise you're never gonna grow into like your comfort zone. I would probably still hiding until it became like cool to
Yeah.
be bodybuilder. Like it became
Mm.
cool to be bodybuilder now.
Yeah.
Or
Like if
or
you
let's
have
say,
your meal prep with you, like, oh, you've got your meals, you've sorted out, like that's really good that you're so on it. Whereas before it was like, oh, you're so on it all the time, you're so annoying. Like that's
right,
what it used to be like. I remember when we were, getting into competing stuff.
right. And with having meeting Aldo in my new relationship,
Mm.
um I did a lot of that too. Like I was
Yeah.
trying to make it, and it's my full time, like it's a job for me now. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? It's my job. It's been my job for a very long time. I've been doing that for a very long time. But yet again, like being selfish to a point, to a
Yeah.
point of like 3 hours I need to eat my meal, I would
Yeah.
still make it like put two meals together. Like
Yeah.
never tell him like I need to eat. Like can we stop somewhere so I can warm up my meal? Like I
Yeah.
need to make my food. I need my sleep. Like all
Yeah.
these things that a bodybuilder needs, and it's very basic and it's very how it's supposed to be. I was still struggling. So
Yeah.
girls that are like amateur now, like I'm very thankful for them, for the Instagram part of things, where like it
Yeah.
makes it easier, and it
Mm.
makes it like you go to a restaurant and people are not that shocked that you ask for dressing on the side. But it used to be really
Yeah.
hard. Like,
Like,
it used to
yeah,
be really
they'd look at
hard.
you and be like, why are you asking for something different? Like, why are you being a pain in the ass? Like, they're still probably asking about that now and being like, why are you asking all these things? But I think it's more common now. People, even in lifestyle, like people that are outside of bodybuilding, they're like, can I have a sauce on the side? Can I have a Caesar salad instead of like, can I have chicken breasts? And
Yep.
like doing all these things, and people bringing their scales to weigh out the chicken and their meats and this, that, and the other. And it's not, that's the normal thing to do sometimes now within the bodybuilding world. Whereas before, if I was, I remember being scared to bring out my scales. And like even when I was pro and stuff, I was like, oh, I can't eat my food here. I can't weigh my stuff here. Like it's a bit like weird because again, it wasn't very common back then, or it wasn't as common. Whereas now, the world is definitely different, and I love Instagram and obviously social media for
For
bringing
that.
that
Yeah.
100%. So that's really cool. That's obviously really really cool to kind of hear that like your side and like how it's changed you and stuff. And I think both of our things to some extent still live inside of us a little bit, but
Yeah.
not nearly as much as it used to. Like
Right.
I definitely still have those times where I'm like, I can never imagine myself doing that. I can't do that. There's no way. And then I'll be like, Phoebe, yes, you can. You got this shit. Hand up, like, do what you need to do, and
Wait,
get
what
your
is
team back
it?
up.
Like, what are you referring to? Because you
Like,
have,
as in, like, just anything in life. Like, that was my thing.
okay.
Like, I used to be like, I can't do anything. Like, I can't, like, if I had a goal in mind, I was like, I can't do that. Like, there's no way I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
achieve
yeah.
that. Whereas now I'm like, you got this. Make a plan. You got this. You can do this.
Right.
However long it will take, you take. And it's the same with you. Whereas before you were like, I can't disappoint people. I can't like let people down.
Yeah.
Obviously it's a you sport, but you couldn't. You were worried about all those types of things. Whereas you still probably have those a little bit now because obviously it's a person you are at the end of the day, but you have grown a lot more into the person you are. Why the sport has changed us, still live in us, but not nearly as much. And I think that's really, really cool to kind of to know how it's changed us for sure. One thing I would like to know is like, what was your, so obviously I think my first thought when I like turned pro was like, I'm so excited to be sponsored. Like that was like my first thing. I was like, I can't wait to get sponsored. Like I want to get sponsored now. So like,
Right.
it sounds very strange, but like, who was your first sponsor that you obviously like were like branded with? Say.
So I got my very first sponsor like my second year being a pro and
Mm,
competing in my first Olympia, which I finished
mm.
second of all. So like
I did that.
everyone who's out there, like being an amateur,
Yeah.
like turning pro and still like trying to figure out like what's happening. Like I had like already done like 5 pro shows, won 3 of them,
Mm.
went to my first Olympia, finished in
I
second, and
remember that as well.
then
Because I
yes, with
remember like,
Alex
who is
and
this
that
new girl?
year.
She's just
Yeah,
won like
the dark
3 shows
horse.
back to back. I literally remember to this day. I was like, who's this girl? She's just run 3 shows. And then you all of a sudden came in second. I was like, who is this girl? She looks insane. This, like that. I remember that was like a thing, like
Oh,
even in the UK. I remember back in the day, like everyone was like, oh my God, who is these? Because it's even still now, like when people are new that come into like the well, people are like, oh my God, who is this? Like this is it's so intriguing when there's new pros and all that sort of thing. But no,
true.
sorry, I cut in there. So what were you saying obviously about second year?
No, that's like, I mean, that's so cute because, like, honestly, now I look back and I see how big of a deal it was. Like, that year, 2018, like, if I tell you who was there, you would be like, oh my God. Like,
Yeah,
to this day, like, the only person I've never beat per se
yeah,
is Angelica Teixeira. And, like,
yeah.
obviously, that's like crazy
That's
to say
crazy.
because that
Yeah,
panel was nuts. Like, all the OGs were there,
yeah,
like, each and every one of them.
yeah.
It's like
Especially,
starstruck like a little girl, like, and everyone was coming at me like, who are you? Like, and I was
yeah,
just like, but I'm just here, like, I was just here, like, living the moment. I was like, first time in Vegas by myself. I had like Z with me.
mm.
We were going to the pool. Like, I went to the pool with my full on makeup, like at the at Venetian pool with my full on makeup because the Olympia was like a 2-day show back in the days. So after the prejudging, I went to the pool, the Venetian
Mm.
pool, with my full on makeup and just like got a tan, like just girl, just like
That's so
clueless of
funny.
what was happening,
Yeah.
just the impact, like how big of a deal it was,
But that brings
and
us back to what we were talking about before about the pressure thing. So you
yeah,
probably felt like you were just there. Like you literally just said it. You were
yeah,
just there. You were enjoying the moment. You were enjoying your first Olympia. Like this is like
and
insane. And it's that proves a point right there. Like
and
the pressure was off,
I
like
was Phoebe, I was walking everywhere, like you know how we are. I was walking everywhere,
feet
like
up, don't walk, don't
just
move.
just
Like,
like just just like being like a real human instead of like
yeah,
being at the Olympia now. Like I was like, everybody was like, don't talk to her, like don't disturb her. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
We live it like don't walk anywhere. I remember like the partner that I was with, like um it was like really like the second that you step in Vegas,
mm,
nobody knows who you are.
yeah,
Like you stay in the room as long as you can, you
yeah,
rest, but even that puts on pressure. It's like,
yeah,
why could I not be like a regular human like I've
yeah,
been the last year coming
yeah,
to show? Because obviously cortisol is a really real thing, but I realized for me,
mm,
cortisol spikes if I'm staying in the room and asking everybody to stay away from me and like and just create that cocoon. So
yeah.
I don't want to steer up like too much away from the subject, but
No,
that's really something that I established with myself and like proof in the pudding again. I
yeah,
finished second at the no the Olympia when I did that too.
yeah,
So that was in 2021 when I went back to like just having fun, and then the Arnold was the same thing. I was just like falling, asleep backstage and just like having fun. Like I remember you came to me
enjoying
that
it.
that my first Arnold, you came and you were like, "Are you okay, girl?" Because I was just like, I was falling asleep. I was falling asleep, just like with my headphones, like, vibing with my little music, just like
Yeah,
here. And
yeah,
and yeah, with that being said, like uh with those big accomplishments, I look back and I was like, that's so crazy that
I know.
happened. But I got my first sponsorship a month after finishing second on the Olympia and winning
Yeah.
all these shows. And it was with GAT Sports Supplement
Oh yeah,
Company,
because obviously at the time it was obviously because were you part of you were the Gat girls, weren't you?
the GAT girls. Like that
Yeah.
came through, I know, with Janet and Angelica, girl.
I remember that was like again
The
from obviously seeing from again because the UK is so much smaller in terms of like the industry and stuff like that. So when I see that, it's like the Gat girls, like Angelica, Janet, Lauralie, like it was like huge back then. I remember
Yeah.
that.
And it was like a 2-year contract back in the days. A lot of traveling. We traveled together so much, but it was so, oh my God, to this day, like it's the most fun years I've ever had in my entire life.
That's so
It
fun.
was so fun. And like we obviously came really close because whomever you travel with, like around the world, like you
Mm.
became really
You
close
get
with
to
them.
know them.
Yeah, on
Yeah.
certain.
And do you feel like obviously GAT at the time like aligned with what like obviously I know you said you had like a lot of fun and stuff, but did you feel like they aligned with kind of like who you were at the time, like and you felt like it was a right contract, or do you feel like you kind of was like, well, I feel like I need to take it, or you feel like it was like, yeah, this is the right time for me to kind of be with you, if that makes sense?
I think I had like maybe two other company reaching out.
Mm.
Um, and I before that I had little like Canadian like Quebec stores that
Yeah.
was helping me with my supplements. And I was like taking Nitroflex at the time. So I was just like, wait, got a US company, a US brand, they're gonna fly me out, like giving me a salary. Because this was not common. Like they
Oh,
actually
yeah.
offered me a salary, like a monthly base salary. And I was like, I'm taking this.
Yeah.
And I had two jobs at the restaurant. I was just like, this is gonna be helpful, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
And
and I
then
think it's good because it, like you said, it aligns with what was right for you at the time and stuff like that. And I think that's
for
something that's
me, and
really
really for
important.
me, I like my social media. I think when I signed with God, I maybe had Phoebe, I maybe had like 5,300 followers, I think. I
Wow.
think. Or
Like
like,
it's like
or
now
maybe
you have
eight.
to at least have like 50K like to even be noticed, like to get
I
those
don't
types of deals.
Yeah, I don't even know how like company do like their athletes, because there's obviously now there's like this
Mm,
influencer side of things, which like in the past it was not really a thing. Like I think in the influencer side of thing came with like shreds, like
yeah,
Paige Hathaway and like
yeah.
the
Oh
product
my
placement
God,
companies.
yeah.
Like, yeah, you remember those? So like I think
Yeah.
Shreds was probably one of the first
Yeah.
sponsor that was influencer-ish type.
Mhm.
But now we're dealing with like brands that are doing both,
Yeah.
or they're really bodybuilding, or
Yeah. They kind of
so
it kind of lifestyle and bodybuilding, like they kind of
yeah,
cater for like the everyday person versus like I feel like a lot of the brands back in the day were kind of like not just bodybuilder, but it was more bodybuilder based. Like there were a lot
yeah,
of fitness expos, and it was more bodybuilder based versus it
yeah,
being like fitness things. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
so, I feel that that's really good though because like I think especially when we say with sponsorships now, I think my experience with sponsors was very different. Like that was my first instant thought when I turned pro. I was like, I want to be sponsored, and like my first sponsor was Muscle Tech, which is very very random, obviously because yeah,
it's
because they've
not
been around
random.
for
You're
that
kidding?
yeah, because they've been around for decades. And like
Phoebe,
I
that's
know
dope.
back in the day they were very much like they were very big obviously back then. I think they've obviously had a quiet period now, obviously they're sponsoring the Olympia now obviously again, but um I at the time obviously I don't know where they're based. Are they US or
Phoebe, I'm shocked right now. Yeah, I think they're based in the US. Yeah, I mean they're
yeah, so
muscle
obviously
tech.
I know it's big, isn't it? So obviously at the time before my pro card, not after, and I remember when I got it, I was like, I want this. That's all I want is I want a sponsor. So I took it straight away, and I just
Yeah,
think at the time it just didn't for me it didn't align with what I wanted to do in terms of like posting and doing all of that type of thing. Obviously because it is a job, do you know what I mean? Like it's a full-time job having to post about the products and all that type of thing.
oh
Um,
yeah, oh
and
yeah,
I don't think at the time was right for me because it just didn't I didn't enjoy the experience for me anyway. And I feel like nowadays, obviously, for anyone that's obviously, wanting to get sponsored or, wanting that kind of like lifestyle, I think it definitely has to align with what you want to do versus and obviously you enjoy the product, all that sort of thing, versus just taking it just because. I think I definitely took it just because at the time.
Oh, did
Which is crazy.
you?
I know that's crazy, right? So I feel like sometimes it's easy to just be like, oh my God, someone's noticing me. So I feel kind of validated. So I want to take the opportunity.
But
Versus
you
actually
you
wanting
already
it.
had quit your job, right? Like quit school.
Yeah, so this was already, yes, so this is me
Right.
quitting school
And
and
you
stuff
really
like
wanted
that.
to get sponsored. Like,
Yeah, and that was the
it's a
first. I was like, I
Canadian
want to
brand
get
company.
sponsored. Yeah,
It's
I was
can
like, I want to get sponsored. I want to like be noticed and this, that, the other. And I think when someone did notice me, I think it didn't satisfy my need for like what I actually wanted. Like in terms of like sponsorship and all that type of thing. I think now I would try and obviously maybe look into things a little bit more. Like nowadays, you look into the company, what they want to offer you, what do they do, this, that, the other. Versus I was like, yeah, let's go. Like straight away, there was no like questioning, you know.
how
So
long
I
was the
feel like
contract?
yeah, so I feel like it's kind of like now, obviously, like I'm not sponsored by, supplement brands at the moment, not for that reason, but because I want to try and make sure that they align with me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
um,
How
it's
long was
easy.
the contract with Muscle Tech?
It's for a year, so it
It's for
was for a
okay.
year, so it was obviously it was a long time, but I feel like that time, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't a waste of time or anything like that, but it was a good time. But I feel like it didn't align with what I wanted my page to be, for example. Like I didn't want to post and make my kind of Instagram
But
like perfect and everything.
you discovered that while you were signed with them? Like
Yeah, and I
what
was like,
happened? Were you like in the second month and you were like, oh crap.
yeah, and I think
Oh,
obviously,
the second month?
no, not the second month. It wasn't that quick, but like it, when it's like I don't want to make my entire page like an ad and it be very like just brand based. Whereas I did think they wanted that a little bit more, which would
Yeah,
make sense
yeah.
because obviously the business they want the athletes to promote the business, obviously, which totally makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think when I was in that, I realized that, and I was like, this doesn't align with me anymore. So, and I feel like nowadays, obviously, I want to try and find something that does align with me. Any sponsor, it doesn't have to be supplements, but any sponsorship. I want it to align with me versus it being like, I just want to
100%.
take it because of being noticed, And I feel like a lot of people sometimes go through that, especially when they're going in, getting their pro card or getting into the bodybuilding world. They're like, I want to be sponsored. I want people to, pay me for what I do, and I want people to do this for me. And like, you need to make sure that your values are in the right place versus just being like, I just want the lifestyle, because like
Yeah.
it's
The,
not
yeah.
always like the grass is greener, Like it's
Yeah.
easy to say the grass is greener.
So here's a couple list of girls if you're out there and looking for a sponsorship, that things that you need to be covered for yourself,
Mm.
like a little cheat sheet, okay? First of all, make sure of the capacity that you have. So
Yeah.
when a sponsor tells you I'm gonna pay you X amount, it's probably because you're gonna have like 12 posts to make.
Mm.
12 posts on your page when you have probably 30 days out of the month
Mm.
means that you're gonna have to do XYZ. Now, who's gonna do your content? Are you
Yeah.
gonna do your own content? Fit that into your schedule. Like, I think for me, like the factor now that I look into sponsor because like I had a lot of sponsor. Obviously it needs to align with my brand. That's like first and foremost. I think that by now my brand is so established though that like I really get um offers from companies that make sense because they're just like, hey, that would match. And it's pretty easy. Now for me, it's just about make them understand like I'm not an influencer. Like I
Yeah.
need to be an athlete first
Hmm.
and then the post.
Yeah.
And this is how I connect with my audience. Like you should know by now, like how do you connect with your audience? Is it more on YouTube? Is it more story posts? Like for me, if a company comes to me and asks me to do a placement product post like this,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have 2,000 likes. Like it's
Yeah.
not gonna drive any sales.
Yeah.
I'm swear to God. But if I do a story that is literally me, no makeup on, like fooling around in my kitchen, like can we just try, let me
Yeah.
just show you. So like there was a lot of like, especially with that transition from like a very like corporate over edited
Yeah.
perfection companies. Like I've been with like the first one that comes to my head is Bombshell, right?
Yeah.
So like they were in the like very like perfection, like hair
Yeah.
got to be perfect. We need to see your feet in the picture all the way stuff, like which like is fine. It's a lot of
Yeah.
requirement though from a girl that is like me, who's like one, not girly at first. Second of all, my life that like I mean, I love your shirt, Phoebe, but like this is what I wear, you know what I'm saying? Like I have, don't get me wrong, I have my bombshell underneath, but like I need to capture that because the second that I put myself in a position that um, it's not me. People
Hmm.
call the BS
Yeah.
real quick.
Yeah.
So like now it's like I do, you know, I really honor that word, like partnership instead
Yeah.
of like endorsement.
Yeah.
Endorsement is like being a victim of things. It's like I do think like you need to have that kind of like relationship at first, just to understand that this is gonna be your employer, you know,
Hmm.
for
Oh
the
yeah,
girls that are just
it's a
started.
work. It's you, but working from both sides. Like
Yeah.
they can't expect you to do all the work and they give like you nothing, or they give you work and you give them nothing. It has to be two-way street.
100%. So it was a work in progress, I
Yeah.
think, but I'm very blessed to have had great brands relationship. And
Yeah.
for me, I just know. So like whenever they slide into my DMs, I'm just like, thank you very much for the opportunity, but this is not
Not
gonna
for
work
you.
for me.
Yeah. I think
And
that
honestly, if it doesn't work for me, it won't work for my audience. And that's
yeah.
honestly how, you know, I had a situation not so long ago with a very like an amazing sponsors, amazing athletes. They're, you know, they were just not, you know, I've tried a couple months
Mhm.
and I've reviewed my I'm very like I love to see my performance. Like
Yeah.
I love to see how I perform within a company. Um and a great salary. Like I could
Yeah.
have just taken it, do the
Yeah.
work and not talk about it. But it was not something that I was able to explore and just like
Hmm.
be a lot of myself and get creative with it. It was
Yeah.
very black and white. And unfortunately, like it was just not working with my audience. And I
Yeah.
just felt like I was losing connection with my audience and it's so precious for me. I mean,
Yes.
Phoebe, even you, like your community is insane. Like you get the
Yeah.
support, you get the love because of what? Because of who you are. And like it wouldn't be me. Like as I said, I had a great salary, like probably the
Yeah.
biggest salary like any woman probably had in the sport. Like it was
Yeah.
that big. And I still decide to like have them release me
Yeah.
because I needed to be honest with obviously them. They
Hmm.
didn't even care. They
Yeah.
didn't even care. I care though, because I'm like,
Yeah.
if I do that for like one more year, this is one
Hmm.
more year that I cannot connect with my audience and my little like family. Like it's
It
being
changes you.
dishonest.
And
Like it was dishonest and it was fake. And I was like, I've been in no, I cannot. I've done too much work to just accept the money and be an endorsed
yeah.
person. So
I
I
think
mean,
that's another thing to add to the, like the cheat sheet list of obviously what you look for in sponsors is like obviously making sure it aligns with you, making sure you trial the products. Obviously, I say products, but trial the company and how you work together, making sure that it's
yeah.
right for you, understanding that partnership and all that type of thing. I think that's so important because I think, like you said, you had such a great run, but you started to lose yourself. And don't be afraid. Obviously, don't get me wrong. You'd never take those years back. Like the time you had with that company was like, amazing, but know when your time is done as well, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
because
Like
you're
sometimes you outgrow them, which is absolutely fine, but you wanted to move on. Like you could have stayed with them obviously and stayed there, but you might not be nearly as loved and successful as you are. Well, I have no doubt you probably would be, but
I
you
mean, we
might
find a way, but it
not
just
have
makes
connected.
it everything makes it so miserable because then
Yeah.
like you're not being honest. Like I just want to have a company that literally like the container are on my stove, like on
Yeah.
my counter of the kitchen, and they're there. And I don't have to like hide the product like behind the
Yeah.
door that I'm using right now. Like no, I want to be completely fully transparent with the
People.
company that I am. So
Yeah.
now like even sometimes, even as a pro, like I do reach out to companies. I'm the
Yeah.
one who's like, hey, I've been like buying your product. I'm a fan of like what you do. Like, here's my page. Like, slide into their DMs
Yeah.
and just like hopefully
Let
they
me
see
know.
something.
Yeah, 100%.
And that way, at least I'm honest with myself. Like, it's
Yeah,
so
because
important.
you
Like,
like their product.
don't cut yourself short because the clout is just a bubble, right? You
Yeah.
might feel the money is gonna be great for a year, and then now what? Now
Yeah.
you have not the same connection. Like I'm very proud of having like a 62% women audience in
Oh my
my
God, don't get me started. I love the fact that I looked at mine the other day and it was like 70 something percent. And I was like, yes. I was like, my
that's
girls.
so good.
Yeah. I was like,
That is
that's
so
so because again, you want your audience to connect with you for the right reasons, right? So
yeah.
like we said, we share our stories like, openly and honestly, as much as we can. And we want to try and connect with our audience versus it just being like, cool, I'm just, just doing this
That's
sport and like just kind of showing brands off. And again, you can do what you want, and this
I
isn't
was
us
about to
bashing
say, like,
anyone.
it might be fine for
Yeah,
someone, you know?
yeah, this isn't bashing anyone's way of doing things at all. I like to connect with everyone that kind of, I'm in reach with either YouTube or Instagram, and are a fan of my followers. I want to get to know them. I want to like see what they're up to and this. I don't know. Like I enjoy that type of thing. But obviously, don't get me wrong. We still got to get paid. We still got to do stuff, but we want to try and do it with the right company. So I totally get that. And I think it's cool to see that our values then versus now again have changed in a good way for the greater good, if that makes sense.
Speaking of how we need to get those things aligned, right? So like we need to
Mm,
have this aligned. Do you realize when we talk, like how much we have this into our heart? Like it's literally like we call this our family
yeah,
and it's
I love it.
Instagram. Like
I know.
how how do am I gonna like ask you this question? Like how impactful, how toxic? And I'm gonna say no, I'm kidding. Like how toxic
How
can that be
toxic? I
into your
like
life?
where is this
I'm
going?
kidding. But how much does it impacts you? Like impacts you. Like it by like it's in your head when you ask
Yeah.
yourself question, when you're booking like a trip, like how much like content comes to your mind, like or content or Instagram or just social media, like you're at the actual Phoebe social media, like
Mm.
how does it impact your daily life?
I feel like a lot nowadays, like I feel like I say have to. You don't have to do anything, but I feel like I want to share my journey. I want to share my, like, what I'm doing with people, showing like aspects of life. Obviously, I don't have to, but I want to.
Why?
Sometimes I feel like I have to, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I feel
Mhm.
like I have to. Like if I don't post, people are like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm just chilling because it's a lot and I need to like, have a social media detox, whatever sometimes. But
Yeah.
I feel like I want to show both sides. Like I go to, the beach clubs, have drinks with the girls, go out and have fun, but then I'm also at the gym the next day smashing it and like doing work and this at the other. Like I do very much want to show both lives off because you can do both. Like you can be both and you can be successful with both. And I do like showing that my journey is that. Um and I like the recognition. I feel like sometimes I like the recognition I get from showing that off, if that makes sense. Like I like the fact that people like I'm real, like even though I'm like I'm just sharing my life. I'm just sharing like the
Yeah.
things that you wouldn't think people would appreciate, like our off-season bodies, for example. I know obviously this is a topic that we're not going to get into today, but the our off-season bodies versus our prep bodies. Like people love abs and they love shredded, Phoebes, but they also like me when I'm just normal and like slightly bit more body fat, bit more muscle, bit more fuller,
The
like,
glutes.
and they're
The
like,
glutes.
the glutes. Oh,
Glutes.
the glutes. Everyone loves the glutes. I love the glutes. I love the
Maybe.
glutes so much. And I'm like, I don't want to diet and then lose them. But you know what I mean? Like people appreciate that. And I get such great satisfaction off knowing that my journey just in general, just showing it for its real
Yeah.
self is helping people. So for me, doing it isn't a great effort, if that makes sense. It's not like, oh, I have to do a YouTube today, I can't be bothered. Like, don't get me wrong, sometimes it's like that. But when I pick up the camera and I'm talking and just showing my regular life, like that's not work for me. Like I'm like, I love doing that, if that makes sense. Like
I mean,
it doesn't work
it
for me.
shows. It really shows.
Yeah,
It shows that you actually enjoy doing
thank
that.
you.
You know, the days that you actually feel like you're forced to do it,
Yeah.
like, do you feel forced because you're like, I committed to something? Like, why do you feel forced and why do you feel like you need to face it? It's just, or just kind of do it. It's just because you feel like you own your audience that to just like be real? Or is it
Mm.
because like,
I feel like
why do you still end up doing it?
I think like obviously it's like it's work at the end of the day. Like all of the stuff that we do is how we make our income and how we kind of, brand our businesses, get our, make our money and get more clients and this, that, the other, all that time, like all the things we post and show off, it gets people to know our personalities to then buy into us, technically, if that makes sense. Like, so obviously everything we do, whether it's content or posting, whatever, it's still work. So sometimes having to, do YouTube and explain what I'm going through and explain like the ups, the downs, the this and that, it's obviously tiring sometimes, but I'm like, I know people would want to hear stuff like this. I know people want to know what I'm going through, what's
Yeah,
going
so
on.
so you're
And
like taking one for the team type of thing. You're like,
yeah,
No, yeah, I
Kind
get
of.
it.
And but I enjoy it, but I wait until I'm ready to kind of talk about things like that. So for example, obviously with the Arnolds, like obviously it was a huge decision for me not to do the Arnolds. And like that mindset was really tough. And you obviously we spoke about it for a lot, like what to do about it. And like obviously when I came to the conclusion, there was a huge weight off my shoulders. But then I was like, I need to tell everyone. That was my first immediate thought. I was like, I need to tell
Yeah.
everyone. Obviously, I'm not like why I'm not doing it, what am I doing? Why I'm not doing the Arnolds. And that feels like I'm letting people down sometimes when I have that type of news, which is crazy. And that's how much like I feel like you feel the same, like my audience impacts me because I'm like, when I have like bad news or something going on, I'm like, I don't want to feel like I've let them down. I know that sounds so silly saying that, but
I mean,
I don't want
Phoebe,
to let them down, even though I know they don't care, they just want me to be happy. Um, I feel like I enjoy sharing my journey in that respect, if I'm honest.
yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, I see what you're going through because
Yeah.
I my Instagram was so positive
Yeah.
before I met Aldo. And it's not,
Yeah.
I didn't like, I hope that it doesn't come out wrong at all, but
No,
I'm just saying like obviously when you put out a new
your
relationship on
life.
social media and your life, basically,
Hmm.
I've always been extremely transparent
Yeah.
with my audience, extremely transparent. Like I
Mm.
just had nothing to hide. And I always
Yeah.
said like you could literally put a camera like for me 24/7.
Mm.
I wouldn't even mind. Like
Yeah.
it would always be there because I don't put on a face, I don't put on a role. This is my life. This is Lauralie. I make mistakes. I'm not perfect. It is
Yeah.
what it is. And I've
Yeah.
always told myself that. Like I told myself that back the first time I did a story on Instagram, I probably redone that story like 14 times
Yeah.
because my English wasn't perfect, and I was just like, okay, this needs to go because I need to go to work. Like, so
Yeah.
it is what it is. And that's literally what I've been doing on my social media since I'm here.
Yeah.
So with that being said, like this past like 2 years, I want to say social media has been kicking my butt,
Yeah. And how do you find the balance
kicking
with that?
my
Like,
butt.
how do you
Like,
find the balance with all of it? Like, with being an athlete, first and foremost,
right.
Instagram, sponsorships, a
Hmm.
relationship, all of it. Like, how do
Especially when
you,
all of it is just like all of
a
there.
lot.
Like,
Yeah. It's a lot.
Um,
Sorry,
I
7.
I wouldn't change anything. There's a lot of girls that I know, a lot of girls that just like hides their husband
Mm.
for a reason that I completely understand. Like you just
Yeah.
don't want like don't let some like if you keep something in private, it's not because you're shady. It's really
No.
just to protect your relationship because
Yeah.
people are not in your shoes. They don't know what happens
No.
to you 24/7. What goes in your mind, what goes like, I mean 24/7 is a long time. I don't
Yeah.
have my camera. Like
Yeah.
Instagram is still highlights of my
Yeah.
day. It's still
Hmm.
a little part. It's still me crying for the camera, or it's still me
Yeah.
being happy, or it's still me getting a cake. But after getting a cake, I had the worst news of my life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Showing up on social media when you're having a bad day and you put on a smiley face, it feels very imposterous of me and very scammy of me. And I'm not doing that. So
Yeah.
some days it was really hard for me to going through a bad day. I would just like, I've lost like literal money because I was not able to make the post and like commit to the how do you say like the deliverables that I had to do
Yeah.
for that month because that month was just awful for me.
Yeah.
I wasn't able like I was able to wake up to do my training because I was in prep,
Yeah.
but don't ask me to like
Anything else is hard.
anything else, girl, because I'm gonna post that thing. I'm not even gonna know what the caption is gonna be. And like if you
Yeah.
look back at my caption, the entire year was like Monday, Tuesday,
Tuesday.
legs. And that was it.
Leg
And like
day.
that was it. I was like coming in, putting in, getting out.
Yeah.
And like because I still want to be able to like share my journey and like um I was still enjoying that part. It wasn't work for me that
Mm.
much. You understand what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
um and now I'm able to talk back and explain actually to people what's happening. Like
Yeah.
you don't know the details because like when you're actually going through it, like just need to explain to that and always go on social media and say like how bad my day was and like how I've been like everyone struggles with everything. Sometimes it's just like need to like my little cocoon, just like recluse myself, understanding what's going on, kind of grow through it, and then explain what's going on, you
Yeah.
know?
And I think
And
that's so hard to do sometimes, like especially like nowadays, because you obviously it's your job, like you have to do
It's
so
my
much,
job.
there's a lot of things for you to do. So when you're not wanting to show up on social media and you have to anyway, that's hard. That's really hard.
I mean, it's a fight that, for a long time I wasn't doing it because I just felt, fake.
Yeah.
But then I had to face it, most of the time with like seminars. Like,
Mm,
let's say I was committing to a
yeah.
seminar, crying
Yeah.
literally the night before, having the worst freaking day of my life. I mean, can we talk about Sacramento Pro last year? Like
Yeah.
that alone.
Yeah.
Like,
Like I don't think anyone ever, obviously we don't have to discuss it now, but no one will ever
no.
know the shit that you went through Sacramento Pro 2021. Like I was there and I didn't see the whole thing, but like I was there majority of the time, and like you still fucking got up there. You got on stage and you won that show and you fucking smashed it, but no one saw before. Like 2 hours before. I saw 2 hours before and I was like, I don't know if this girl's gonna step on stage or not. I don't know. Like I don't know what's gonna happen. And like the fact that you still showed up, but regardless of all that shit, like is like that's tough. And like it's the same with social, like you said, with social media. Like with when you have to do that, it's hard. Obviously, I know it sounds very like, oh, it's so hard, but like that's our job at the end of the day. Like we have to obviously we have to show up for ourselves. We have to show up for the people that you know are paying us to do this, that, the other, and all that type of thing, which I think is important to express. But I think it's very important as well, like you said before, to not, like you said, not hide your private life, but also you're protecting it. You're not like always showing like what your husband or your boyfriend or anything like that is doing, because there are people that are out there like, why is he doing this, why is he doing that, or why are they doing this?
First of all, you become a target,
Yeah.
right? So when you're vulnerable, you become the target.
Mm.
I have amazing followers, but I also had
You
not so
had the
great.
spotlight on you.
I had not so great, people coming at me with just like the meanest comment and the most evilish comment you could never
Mm.
imagine. And I'll be okay with
Yeah.
something that's very, like, but something that is untrue.
Mm.
I would literally, Phoebe, like just go on that person's page,
Yeah.
message them, and be like, just call me. Here's my phone number. Like, call me so I can tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And I was doing that. Like, can you imagine like
Yeah.
doing that to every single one person? And at the end of the day, at the end of the phone call, because I actually did it. And at the
Yeah.
end of the phone call, the girl was just like, yeah, but still like this.
Yeah.
So
The
you're
thing is with
hearing it
that,
from the source. I'm telling you exactly how it is, and you still want to believe your narrative because
yeah.
it fits better your mood that day or
Yeah.
like whatever. Like I've done my job. Like,
Yeah.
but it's so hard when something a lie, and it's very hard even for my parents to
Mm.
see a literal lie
Yeah.
and me being just there, like not saying anything.
Yeah. People
Because
will want to believe what they want to believe at the end of the day,
yeah,
especially when it comes to social media. And like, obviously, like we said, social media is a very much a highlight. So when it's hard for us to show up on social media when we don't want to, we're exhausted, we're tired, or we're
or
going
that
through
you want to
shit.
prove yourself. Like
Yeah.
when you made that, like the decision of, thankfully, Sophie, you're like a great speaker. You know how to speak your mind extremely well, and like your video was like
Oh,
chef
thank you.
kiss. It was great. But the thing is, like, when you need to, like, you're in that position where you feel like you're owning explanation to
Mm.
someone, like you really need to first and foremost, before that video, you probably had to make peace with yourself
Yeah.
and be like, I do not need to be understood by no one
Yeah.
here. No one here. Max understands you. He's in your
Mm.
relationship.
Yeah.
Your parents are still proud of you.
Yeah.
You know how I was. I was
Yeah.
like,
You were like, do
heck yeah.
you,
I was like,
boo?
girl, it's gonna fucking suck. Oh my God. Sorry. It's gonna freaking suck without you not being in Columbus.
Yeah.
And like, it freaking sucks, but like, damn, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Like, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Like, forever Phoebe fan for that, because I was like, this is like this. I wish I was that courageous.
Yeah.
I told you so.
But then
I
also
told
at
you.
the end of the day, like you also were going through the same fields as I was. And like you were very much on the brink of obviously, not doing the Arnolds as well, but you still pushed on and like soared. Like look how much shit you obviously went through to get to that. And you still defended your title. Like that's
With some like heavy dark
yeah,
circle
like
now and probably
heavy
like a lot less
breathing,
hair.
hair falling out. It's fine though. We got a title. No, but I think it's cool. It's cool to see both perspectives, like both perspectives of our lives. Like bodybuilding has changed us in a way where we can both push and power through, but we also both know what we need to do in that moment. Like for you, you were like still able to be like, let's do this. Like for me, I was gone. I was out of it. I just couldn't anymore. And that's okay. And I think the difference is we both accept our finishing line. You know what I mean? Like we're both like, okay, we're both happy with the decision we made versus regretting. Like I don't regret doing it. I don't. And like I still do sometimes wonder what if, but I can go to the Arnolds again. I can, you know, try and obviously get top 5 or whatever, like one time at the Arnolds. You know what I mean? Like it's not over. But for me at the time, it was not, I wasn't ready. Whereas you're like, I'm accepting my fate. I know I can push on. I've got this. And look what happened. Like, I think the great thing is we both know what we can do.
Yeah, and I think it's just respecting to like I had to put myself in a different mindset, like straight up, because I was like, okay, like we're 5 weeks out,
Yeah.
like
We need
let's
to move
go
it.
because and I was like, okay, this is option number one. This is where the mindset is going to be. If I go back home, because I'm in the plane is so great for me because that's where I do all my thinking for my whole life. And I was like, okay, it's going to be Monday tomorrow. This is how my life is going to be for the next 5 weeks, or else this is going to be my life for the next 5 weeks. I wrote down this, you know, the
And then you
schedule,
told me. I remember that.
and I just stuck to that. So I was like a little robot, a little
Yeah.
like easygoing. It was just like a weird, like it's just a weird and different prep, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But I needed to put myself in the same mindset, and you needed to put yourself in the like healthy mindset.
Yeah.
It wasn't healthy anymore.
Yeah.
Like my mind was still like able to I was just not doing it because I was like my body was just tired and
Yeah.
exhausted. But still, my mindset was just like
It was
either
there.
I go full blown, and like it was there, you know?
I think that's good
Um
though. Like again, we know
so
the finishing, like we accept our finishing points and we don't regret it. We only learn from it and we live from it, which I think is really good takeaway. So one thing, okay, we've been chatting a while, and I'm really excited. I
we're
hope
in 30
everyone's
minutes.
loving obviously listening to us. But I want to obviously end it on a kind of a final question. It's like, what would you? Again, this is a very like common question, but what would you tell your younger self before pursuing
Oh my
bodybuilding? I
God.
know.
Wait, what would I tell my younger self?
I
I
think
say
mine
that
would be like, don't be so afraid. Like don't,
oh,
you know what
dude,
I mean?
okay, wait. I was about to say, don't be so worried.
Yeah, like
Stop
now.
being so worried.
Yeah.
Like just the worry, like just stop
Yeah,
being
like I
worried.
remember worrying, being so scared of what people would think,
Like
like
stop.
literally
There's
like petrified of what people would think of me, like doing bodybuilding,
like
like and all that type of thing. Like I remember my first actual bodybuilding show. I didn't tell anyone. Like I didn't tell anyone. I went to cheer the next day, tanned, and they were like, "Why are you tanned?" And I was like, I did a bodybuilding show. I was so scared to tell them what I was doing, but they were like, "Oh my god," because I won on my first show, and they were like, "Oh my god, amazing!" This, like, the. But I was like, "Why did I not tell them?" They like some of my best friends there. Like I was so afraid. So I think my younger self, I would literally be
yeah,
like, don't be so like scared. Don't be so afraid. Don't be so worried. You know, I
that
think it's
is
definitely a good one to end on. Like people that are listening, what would you ask your younger self? Like comment down below if you're on YouTube, because this video is going on YouTube. If you're on
right.
YouTube right now and you've gotten this far into the podcast, what would you tell your younger self? Like what would you give the advice of your younger self? I think that's very something important to kind of look back on, because it's easy to be so hard on ourselves now, but like look at what we've done now and you wouldn't even think we'd be getting this far now. Do you know what I mean? Like I think that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
And you know, it's funny how like we say we're gonna say that to our younger self, but I sometimes I tell that myself right now.
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
literally tell myself like
you
that. Don't be
should
so
actually
afraid.
stop worry
Don't be so
like
worried.
stop being like what are you worried about?
I
Like
know.
is it no, it's not that
I know.
intense. Like, you know, take a deep breath. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna get through this.
Yeah, I
You're
know.
gonna get through
Well,
this.
I want to
So
say, we want to say a huge thank you for anyone that's listening. I think a lot of people, like, we created the Instagram, the YouTube, and all that, thing, and everyone was like hyping up, which I'm so excited for. So, fingers
I
crossed.
know.
Obviously, if you're watching, thank you so much. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. If you want to obviously follow me or Lauralie, obviously head to our Instagrams, which I think will be in the bio somewhere. But yeah, like keep listening to the Say More podcast. I think it's gonna be something I'm excited to kind of grow. Like I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Same. I'm so excited.
I
You did a good
know.
job on that close off and closing myself off because sometimes I can talk. We're like an hour and 35 minutes into
I
it.
know,
So
I know.
I'm very thankful
Yeah,
that we're doing that.
I know.
And it's Sunday. What time is it for you now?
It's literally like 9:45 at night, and I think it's like what, 1:45 for
Oh,
you? I know. I'm like, I'm gonna go
we
to bed
need to
after this,
go.
and you're like,
We need to go.
I'm going to train probably or going for lunch. Like, so, but I think it's cool that we're able to kind of connect and do this like from abroad. Like, and hopefully when I come in September, we can do it in person. So it'll be a lot of fun.
I mean, I
But
got a chair for you
I know.
too.
Oh,
So
please get a chair,
I
get a
got a
mic for me.
chair.
I'll stay at yours, and we'll be hyping it up. I'm excited. So, but thank you guys so much for watching. Obviously, please make sure that you
Thank you
like and
guys.
subscribe to the channel. Keep listening to Say More. We have so much more kind of to say, you know. And also comment down below if there's any topics you specifically want us to talk about and stuff like that.
All the things. Love you guys so much. Thank you for
Love you.
watching and see you guys in the next episode.
Mwah.